The NFL Draft, the part of the year where the worst teams in the league get a moment of hope before eventually having it totally destroyed shortly after. However, with any draft, there are often teams trying to trade up to get a better player, better pick, or just better situation overall. As much as some of these has worked out, today we wanted to go over the 10 worst draft day trades in NFL history. Coming in at the number 10 spot is a trade that left the whole NFL honestly baffled and changed the entire way the league looked at drafting wide receivers. In 2014, the Buffalo Bills decided that one wide receiver was going to fix everything. Sitting at pick number 9, the Bills made a bold but reckless move. They traded up to number 4 with the Cleveland Browns, giving up their 2015 first and fourth round picks just to draft Sammy Watkins. That's a haul usually reserved for quarterbacks or generational talents. Watkins, talented? Sure, but generational? Nah. Watkins had a decent rookie season, but injuries and inconsistency followed him around like a shadow. He was never a top 10 receiver, let alone someone worth mortgaging the future. Meanwhile, that 2015 first rounder Buffalo gave up. It became Pro Bowl cornerback Demarius Randall via trade for the Browns. To make matters worse, the next two receivers taken after Watkins, Mike Evans and Odell Beckham Jr., definitely a swing and a miss. Watkins was traded just 3 years later, and the Bills entered a mini rebuild. It was a classic case of a team chasing flash instead of building smart. The Browns, for once, fleeced someone else, and the Bills learned the hard way that going all in on a wideout who's not elite is a shortcut to mediocrity. This one looked like a masterstroke until it didn't. In 2012, Washington was desperate for a franchise quarterback, so they emptied the vault, sending the St. Louis Rams 3 first-round picks and a second-rounder just to move up from number 6 to number 2. With that pick, they drafted Robert Griffin III, RG3, the Heisman winning sensation with Olympic-level speed and a cannon for an arm, and at first, it looked genius. RG3's rookie year was electric. He threw 20 touchdowns, ran for 7 more, and led Washington to the playoffs. The guy was everywhere. Highlights, magazine covers, Subway commercials. The city had hope again, but it all came crashing down fast. Late in that rookie year, Griffin got hurt. Then the coaches let him keep playing on one good leg in a playoff game against Seattle, and he tore his ACL. After that, he was never the same. The explosiveness was gone, the confidence shaken. By year 3, he was benched for Kirk Cousins, a guy Washington drafted in the same draft class in the 4th round. Meanwhile, the Rams used Washington's picks to load up on talent. They grabbed Michael Brockers, Janoris Jenkins, Alec Ogletree, and more. Washington, they got one magical year and a franchise derailed by injuries, bad coaching decisions, and front office dysfunction. Trading up for RG3 wasn't just a gamble, it was a full-blown Vegas weekend. And just like most Vegas weekends, it ended with regret, confusion, and a whole lot of money gone. Granted, it wasn't really Robert's fault. Most of the blame for this falls on the organization for not protecting their franchise cornerstone properly. This wasn't just a bad trade, this was the single biggest fleece job in NFL history, a masterclass in highway robbery. If you ever wondered how a dynasty is built, look no further than the day the Minnesota Vikings said, "Yes, Jerry Jones, we'll take Herschel Walker off your hands." And the Dallas Cowboys said, "Really? You sure? Don't change your mind now." In 1989, the Vikings believed they were one player away. They had a strong defense, a serviceable quarterback, and a window that felt wide open. So naturally, they decided to sell the farm, the house, and the damn tractor to get Herschel Walker, a former Heisman winner and one of the most hyped players in the league at the time. He had size, speed, and was fresh off a 1,500-yard season. To Minnesota, he was the missing piece. The cost? 5 players and 8 draft picks. Yes, 8. The trade included 3 first-rounders, 3 second-rounders, a third, and a 6th. And just to add a nice little punchline to the joke, the Cowboys had conditions that if any of the players were cut by the end of the season, Dallas would get even more draft picks. You can guess what happened next. Dallas cut most of the players immediately. They didn't want the players, they wanted the picks, and they got every last one. Minnesota inserted Walker into the lineup like he was a cheat code, but it turned out he was more like a glorified power-up that lasted about 10 minutes. He never rushed for 1,000 yards in a season with the Vikings. He never even came close to matching his Dallas production. In the long run, he was just a guy. Minnesota went 10-6 that year and got bounced in the playoffs, and they never got close to the Super Bowl during Walker's tenure. Meanwhile, the Cowboys turned those picks into a football empire. They drafted Emmitt Smith, the NFL's all-time leading rusher. They grabbed Darren Woodson, a franchise cornerstone. They built the core that would win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, all while the Vikings were left staring at an aging running back and wondering where their future went. This one is a certified classic in the "we thought we were contenders, but we were actually trash" category. It's the year 2000. The Dallas Cowboys are fresh off the decline of their 90s dynasty. Troy Aikman is aging, Emmitt Smith is slowing down, and Michael Irvin just retired after a career-ending injury. So what do the Cowboys do? They panic. Enter Joey Galloway, a speedster wide receiver with flashy stats in Seattle but hardly a game-breaking legend. The Cowboys, desperate to fill Irvin's shoes, send the Seahawks 2 first-round picks for Galloway. 2 for a wideout with solid production, yes, but not someone who is about to change your franchise. And then on cue, the football gods laughed. In his very first game as a Cowboy, Galloway tore his ACL and was out for the season. Dallas went 5-11 and missed the playoffs, and those 2 first-round picks, gold for Seattle. With the first one, they drafted Shaun Alexander, who became an MVP, led the league in touchdowns, and helped Seattle reach their first Super Bowl. That trade alone was worth it. Galloway eventually returned, but never lived up to the cost. He had a couple of decent seasons, but the chemistry was never there. Meanwhile, the Cowboys spiraled into mediocrity, cycling through quarterbacks and coaches like a Madden franchise in year 15. This trade wasn't just bad, it was emblematic of Jerry Jones's tendency to chase stars instead of building smart. He bet the future on a wide receiver at a time when his team had way bigger issues, like offensive line, defense, and, oh yes, a quarterback whose brain was turning into soup from repeated concussions. Aikman would retire after that season, so to recap, Dallas lost its quarterback, missed the playoffs, wasted 2 premium picks, and Seattle got an MVP out of it. All in all, one of the most expensive and pointless panic moves in draft day history. This one is so infamous, it's practically become a meme. If you're a Bears fan, I'm sorry, skip ahead. Save yourself the trauma. Let's set the stage. It's the 2017 NFL Draft. The Chicago Bears hold the number 3 overall pick, but they're paranoid. Rumors are swirling that someone else might leapfrog them and steal their guy, North Carolina quarterback Mitchell Trubisky, who had a whopping 13 college starts under his belt. Instead of waiting it out, the Bears call up the 49ers, who are at number 2, and offer a deal. What's the price to move up one single spot? Chicago gives San Francisco the number 3 pick, a 3rd rounder, a 4th rounder, and a future 3rd rounder, just to move up 1 pick. A move that only makes sense if Trubisky is the next Peyton Manning, which, spoiler alert, he was not. The Bears draft Trubisky at number 2. The 49ers happily drop back 1 spot and still get their guy, Solomon Thomas, plus all that extra capital. But here's the kicker. The Bears didn't just whiff on a QB, they passed on Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson to take Trubisky. And not only did they pass, they didn't even meet with Mahomes in person. They were locked in on Mitch from the jump. Trubisky had moments. He made a Pro Bowl as an alternate, and he helped the Bears reach the playoffs once. But the inconsistencies, the lack of development, and the infamous double doink playoff loss defined his Chicago tenure. Meanwhile, Mahomes became a Super Bowl champion, MVP, and generational talent, and Watson, before everything got messy, looked like a star. The Bears not only wasted high picks, they also delayed their rebuild by years and embarrassed themselves on the biggest scouting stage in sports. Ryan Pace, the GM who made the move, eventually got fired, and Chicago spent the next few years scrambling to fix the mistake, finally landing Justin Fields, and now maybe finding hope again in Caleb Williams. But the Trubisky trade, that one's eternal. It's on every worst draft moves list for a reason, not because Trubisky was a complete bust, but because of who they didn't take. Ah yes, the New York Jets, a franchise known for quarterback brilliance like Joe Namath. And, well, that's about it. In 2009, desperate to end the drought and finally find their quarterback of the future, the Jets made a big splash. They traded up from the 17th pick to number 5 overall to draft Mark Sanchez, a quarterback out of USC with a baby face, a big arm, and a whopping 16 college starts. To make the jump, the Jets gave the Browns a king's ransom, their first rounder, a second rounder, and 3 players, including a solid starting defensive end in Kenyon Coleman. It was a steep price for a quarterback who hadn't proven much beyond looking good in Cardinal and gold. At first, the move looked decent. Sanchez helped the Jets make back-to-back AFC Championship games in his first 2 seasons. But let's be honest, he was just along for the ride. The defense, led by Darrelle Revis and coached by Rex Ryan, was elite. The run game was solid. Sanchez was more of a passenger than a pilot. Once the defense regressed and the offensive line fell apart, Sanchez's flaws came into full view. He was wildly inconsistent, turnover prone, and struggled to read defenses. Then came the butt fumble, the single most Jets moment in Jets history. It was symbolic, a quarterback colliding with his own offensive lineman's backside and fumbling the ball on national TV. That play didn't just end a game, it ended an era. Meanwhile, Cleveland didn't do much with the trade haul. Shocking. But that doesn't let the Jets off the hook. They mortgaged assets for a quarterback they didn't fully develop, and when the defense couldn't carry the load anymore, the whole thing collapsed. In the end, Sanchez was out of New York after 5 seasons. The Jets went back to square one again, and this trade became yet another entry in the cursed saga of Jets quarterbacking blunders. This one is classic Browns, a team so perpetually cursed it turned a college superstar into a punchline in record time. Let's rewind to the 2012 NFL Draft. The Browns held the number 4 overall pick, but that wasn't good enough. They were terrified someone might sneak up and take Trent Richardson, the Alabama bulldozer who had just bulldozed through the SEC and was being hailed as the next Adrian Peterson. So what did Cleveland do? They panicked and traded 3 mid-round picks, a 4th, a 5th, and a 7th to Minnesota just to move up 1 spot from number 4 to number 3. The Vikings weren't even going to take Richardson. They just fleeced the Browns for free picks and still got their guy, left tackle Matt Khalil. So the Browns took Trent Richardson, and at first, he looked decent. He scored 11 touchdowns his rookie year, which got fans excited, but look closer and you'd see the cracks. He averaged just 3.6 yards per carry. He danced in the backfield, couldn't hit holes consistently, and had the vision of a blindfolded toddler in traffic. By his second season, it was clear he was not that guy, and in a rare moment of clarity, the Browns did something smart. They traded him to the Colts for a first-round pick after just 17 games in a Cleveland uniform. The Colts, desperate to support Andrew Luck, took the bait, and they regretted it instantly. Trent averaged just 3.1 yards per carry in Indy, looked sluggish, and couldn't stay in shape. He was out of the league within a few years, one of the fastest falls from future star to where is he now that the NFL has ever seen. He briefly bounced around the CFL and AAF, but his NFL days were over almost as quickly as they started. This trade wasn't just a waste of picks, it was a masterclass in poor evaluation, blind panic, and total mismanagement. The Browns not only traded up for a bust, they gave away draft capital to do it, and even when they salvaged a first-rounder back, they used it in classic Browns fashion, on Johnny Manziel. So yeah, trading up for Trent Richardson wasn't just a bad move, it was a double-decker disaster, and yet it's still somehow not the worst thing the Browns have done on draft day. That's how deep the pain runs. If there's a Mount Rushmore of draft day disasters, the Chargers trading up for Ryan Leaf is carved dead center, with a frown on his face and a clipboard he never read. In 1998, the San Diego Chargers were desperate for a franchise quarterback and found themselves just 1 spot away from grabbing one of the 2 top prospects, Peyton Manning or Ryan Leaf. The Colts held the number 1 pick and, after much debate, wisely chose Manning. That left Leaf, the big-armed gunslinger from Washington State, sitting at number 2. The Chargers couldn't resist. They called up the Arizona Cardinals and pulled the trigger on a massive trade to move up just 1 spot. In exchange for the 2nd overall pick, San Diego gave up their 3rd overall pick, a 2nd rounder, a future 1st-round pick, and a player, all for the privilege of drafting what they believed was the other half of a can't-miss quarterback class. Spoiler alert, he missed spectacularly. Leaf turned out to be one of the biggest busts in NFL history. He was unprepared, immature, and uncoachable. In just 3 seasons, he threw more interceptions than touchdowns, missed meetings, clashed with coaches, and became infamous for a locker room meltdown caught on camera where he had to be physically restrained. His talent was real, but his mindset was a wreck. Meanwhile, Peyton Manning went on to win 5 MVPs, 2 Super Bowls, and become one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever live. The contrast between the two wasn't just dramatic, it was humiliating for San Diego. This wasn't just a bad trade, it was a franchise-altering failure. The Chargers not only wasted multiple valuable picks, they invested years into a player who tanked their trajectory. By the time they recovered, the rest of the league had moved on. Leaf flamed out of the NFL quickly and later battled personal demons and legal trouble. The Chargers, who could have just stayed put and drafted someone else, or waited another year, mortgaged their future to move up 1 spot for a quarterback who never should have gone that high in the first place. This one isn't just a bad trade, it's a generational blunder, a mistake so monumental that it reshaped 2 franchises in completely opposite directions. In 1991, the Atlanta Falcons used a 2nd-round pick to draft a cocky, cannon-armed quarterback out of Southern Miss named Brett Favre. He was talented, no doubt, but also reckless, wild, and unpolished. Head coach Jerry Glanville reportedly hated the pick from the beginning and famously said it would take a plane crash for Favre to see the field. Favre played in just 2 games his rookie year, attempted 4 passes, and completed exactly none. 2 of them were interceptions. It was ugly, but instead of seeing a raw rookie in need of development, the Falcons decided they'd seen enough. The very next offseason, Atlanta traded Favre to the Green Bay Packers for a 1st-round pick, specifically the 19th overall selection. At the time, it didn't make too many headlines, but what happened next turned the trade into one of the most lopsided deals in NFL history. In Green Bay, Favre finally got the chance to start, and once he did, he never looked back. Over the next 16 years with the Packers, he racked up 3 NFL MVPs, led the team to a Super Bowl win, made the Pro Bowl 11 times, and broke nearly every passing record in the book. He became the Iron Man of quarterbacks, starting an NFL record 297 consecutive games and redefining the franchise. He turned Green Bay into a perennial contender and laid the foundation for a quarterback legacy that would eventually pass from Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Meanwhile, the Falcons got the 19th pick. They used it on running back Tony Smith, who played exactly 3 seasons and totaled fewer than 1,000 career rushing yards. He was out of the league before Favre had even hit his prime. Atlanta spent the next decade bouncing between quarterbacks, watching from afar as the man they gave up too early became a legend in green and gold. It's one thing to draft the wrong guy, it's another to draft the right guy and ship him out before giving him a real chance. The Falcons didn't just lose a quarterback, they lost a Hall of Famer, an icon, and a future they didn't have the patience to wait for. The Brett Favre trade is a masterclass in impatience and poor evaluation. It was a turning point for 2 franchises, one headed for decades of stability, the other into a swirling cycle of what-ifs. This isn't just the worst draft day trade in NFL history, it's one of the most baffling decisions a front office has ever made. In 1999, the New Orleans Saints were in full desperation mode. Head coach Mike Ditka was obsessed with one player, Ricky Williams, the dreadlocked Heisman-winning running back from Texas, who had shattered NCAA rushing records and looked like the second coming of Walter Payton. Ditka didn't just want Ricky, he needed him, and to get him, he did the unthinkable. The Saints were sitting at pick number 12 and to move up to number 5 to get Williams. They traded their entire 1999 draft class to Washington. That's right, every single pick, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounders, gone, just to move up 7 spots. And if that wasn't insane enough, they also threw in their 1st and 3rd round picks in 2000. In total, the Saints gave up 8 draft picks for one player, It gets worse. After pulling off the trade, Ditka and Ricky Williams posed on the cover of ESPN the magazine dressed as a bride and groom. It was supposed to be fun. It ended up being symbolic because the honeymoon lasted about as long as the next preseason. Williams struggled in his rookie year, playing just 12 games and battling injuries. The Saints finished the season 3-13. Mike Ditka was immediately fired. The Ricky Williams era in New Orleans was off to a rocky start, and it never really recovered. He would have some strong seasons later in Miami, but he was never a franchise-altering talent in New Orleans. Definitely not worth mortgaging 2 years of draft capital for. Meanwhile, the Washington football team, then the Redskins, used those picks to stockpile talent, though in true Washington fashion, they blew most of the selections. But the fact that they got so much in return for one pick makes this a disaster no matter how you spin it. The Saints effectively burned 2 entire draft classes for a player who played just 3 mediocre seasons for them. This trade wasn't just bad, it was historically reckless. It shattered the team's depth, blew up their coaching staff, and became a punchline for 2 decades. It's still used as a cautionary tale anytime a team falls in love with a player and considers overpaying to move up. You want to know how not to build a team? Start here. This is the gold standard of draft day disasters. Those are our 10 worst draft day trades in NFL history. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to press the like button and subscribe for more. If this video gets 1,000 likes, we will do a part 2 with even more of the worst draft day trades we've ever seen. I do think the draft is not an exact science, but ending up on this list means your GM has the thinking capacity of an absolute goldfish. I appreciate you watching the video, and you should check out our last upload about how George Pickens ruined his own career.